strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Welcome everyone, it is Bulldog back with another arena guide for Illuvium. We have a new team here that, I say new for this channel. It's been a very popular team out there, but it is very friendly for new players. So I want to do a video, want to talk about it, show a couple of battles, how this can look, and show kind of a preferred twist that I've been liking to run. But what we're going to use is lots of Scions. This first version is going to be a 7 Scion team. When you stack lots of Scions, when you get 3, 5, then 7 Scions, you get a bonus in Omega power, which is going to make their abilities very, very powerful. So we're just going to stick in this first battle 7 of these guys on there and do a lot of damage with our abilities. It's fairly straightforward. We're going to have some Colossus that we throw in there to tank, 2 Colossus, 7 Scion. And yes, with this team, there's definitely a lot of skill to it. Different ways to different units to use, different augments. Positioning is always key. I've got a positioning guide out there. If you haven't seen it, by the way, go take a look at that. But it's something that I think is very new player friendly, and that even if you just run the basic setup, it can still be very effective. So not saying this is the best team in the game, but it's very new player friendly team. So the first thing we're going to put out here are these lesser Flish here, and you'll see that these are going to do a lot of their ability is going to do damage in a straight line. And despite them being cheap, they're only 25 mastery points, they can do a lot of damage, especially with all that extra Omega bonus that you'll get from the Scions being out there. So I typically start with these two. In this battle, I'm going to kind of place mostly everybody in the corner. I thought about putting my TNT over there, but ultimately decided to go put it on the other side. And it didn't really come into play here, but I kind of like to use that TNT as a distraction sometimes. There's actually an augment here. Let's flip it up here. This augment right here, I like to use with this TNT over here in the corner and use this almost as bait. And this lesser vitality veil will make whatever unit you place it on untargetable for 2 seconds once it drops below 50% health. Once we have our granite bonus, I'll talk about the granite bonus here in a second, but it can't be damaged for the first 6 seconds, and then once you get it below 50% health, it becomes untargetable, so the units will then leave and go someplace else, and then it's just kind of sitting there in the corner not being targeted. So against some teams, particularly teams that aren't going to target the furthest enemy or the weakest enemy, or can come back to that unit in some way, I kind of like to stick that over there and use it as a little bit of bait. And it ended up working out well in this battle as well, even though I didn't ultimately use that augment. But then I'm going to put the Earth Shield over here on my Ranger, because we're going to pair and get another Colossus unit here next turn. So one thing about this team is that it has been very weak for me in the opening round. I'm going to lose this opening round here, and I have really struggled early in the round until we get another tank on the board, until we get our full Scion bonus. I haven't really done too well in the opening rounds. And I've seen some teams out there where people have placed some stronger starting units out there and then switched them for the Scion team later. And as I've faced some of those teams, I've actually beaten them fairly easily, even though they dominate me at the beginning, because once they switch to their Scion team, they lose some of those mastery points. You don't get a full refund when you switch these teams out. And I've just had more mastery points to work with, more augments to put on there, can get some of my stronger Scions out on the board, maybe switching some of them out or whatever the case is. And then I just dominate the later rounds just by going straight through for the Scions. So I've had better luck with that so far, and kind of just punting some of these opening rounds in a way. But on round 2 here, we're getting our Titanor out, one of the best tanks in the game. It is granite. So now we get our granite bonus. I'm going to bind our Ranger here to our Titanor, and now we have 2 Colossus. We have 3 granite. So our Colossus are going to get some nice tank bonuses, and they're going to be able to taunt, which is going to help keep some attention off of our Scions. In this case, I put the Titanor over here, and I was going to kind of box everything in. Put our Scions up in that left corner, and then just box everything in and trying to kind of prevent the targets from getting to it. I could see that my opponent had a Ramfire, but didn't really have a lot else that was going to get back to our Scions back there. So by grouping all of the Scions together, I felt like I could actually give them some augment bonuses and give them some bonus defense against those energy attacks and survive a big Ramfire hit. So I decided to just go ahead and group them all together. I didn't see a bunch of AoE attacks outside of that, so I just wanted to really make sure I was protecting that corner. So I put the Titanor right up front, and I've got my Ranger, which is another one of my tanks, down here. Kind of the side for once we get a rogue over there. Here in round 2, I tend to go with the Arcane Hydrolinks and our Alfie. And the Hydrolinks, a lot of times I kind of go back and forth. A lot of times I like to have in the back because all of these Lynxes are going to send out waves, wave attacks, and any ally that gets caught in that wave is going to get bonuses. With our water unit here, they're going to get bonus energy, and you'll see bonuses with all the others. So sometimes I have to put it in the very back so that wave goes and hits our allies on the way there. And in this instance, I've got it more to the front. Not a huge deal, but here's that Ramfire that they put out. That's why I've got my Ranger back here protecting. And this is what I said earlier, having our TNT over there on the side was great, because now we've got a 5 Scion bonus, so we've got more Omega damage. Look how much damage we were able to do to that Ramfire. We were able to take it down before it even got its attack, its special attack off, before it could use that Omega, that AoE, and really try and do a bunch of damage to it. These Scions can just do a lot of damage. And I wanted to show this battle because I actually got the shock affinity, and there are a couple different ways this 7 Scion team is run. Normally, you can see I've got 2 fire Scions over here. That's kind of the standard. That's been what you see a lot of people running, is to now put 2 fire Scions out on the board, and then you'll get a damage bonus for having 3 fire units. And if I had not have gotten that shock, that extra shock augment that I can put on somebody, that's how I would have gone, is added the fire for the damage. So that's kind of my standard route. You can't count on getting that shock affinity. It doesn't always pop up, but usually the other team, shock is not all that popular, although I think it can be very effective. I've seen some really good shock teams, but a lot of times when that shock pops up, I'm able to take it. My opponent doesn't want it. And then I go with this Octius, which is nice because it can damage the weakest unit out there, and if it gets some kills, it can string together some attacks. And then shock, we'll see the shock bonus once I can add that shock augment out there as well. Shock is nice and can add some even more damage, can decrease energy resistance. We're gonna do a lot of energy damage here. But now we've got our 7 Scions on the board. So this is what we want: the 2 Colossus to tank with. I've got the Ranger to kind of tank over on the right side against any rogues like we just saw right there. We've got our Titanor, just a beast of a tank up there. And look at this, so much damage. And we're just going right through that Ramfire. That Ramfire is supposed to be a huge unit that's going to carry them and have a big AoE attack and take out some of my weaker units back there. And we are just doing so much damage, it cannot even get off its first big, and use that big Omega hit. So I grouped them all together because if that Ramfire gets an attack, a lot of times I'll go with this unit right here. I'll kind of blow it up for a second. This Exalted Fortification Catalyst, and I'll give all of these units to teammates in a medium area. So if I put it on one unit over here, we can kind of give all of these units some extra either grit or resolve depending on where we're going against. But we can give them a little more durability, and I felt like this was going to be enough. Plus, we've got some other kind of bonuses we can provide here to help our defense a little bit and survive any Ramfire attack. I decided not to go with it because we were taking out that Ramfire before it was even attacking. I had a lead in health. I felt like I could go back to it if I needed to, but instead I got the shock unit out there. I added some healing for my Titanor. We did get a little bit. I like this augment quite a bit and giving the entire team some extra resist tends to work pretty well. I like my Alfie giving it some extra attack speed, and then we just had 20 left. So give everybody a little bit more health. Why not? This team is working very well, and you'll see they're going to. They had something up their sleeve. They had some Mystic, gave their Ramfire a shield. They wanted to get this Ramfire attack off, and you'll be able to see why I had originally planned on providing a little extra defense over here. You can see with that extra shield, a little bit of extra healing, they are just barely able to get this Ramfire attack off, and it does a decent chunk of damage. Takes out a couple units. We still had enough time. All of this damage. 7 Scions is just so powerful. The damage is already done. We were able to take those units out. So there's an example of a Scion team. 7 Scions, 2 Colossus. But that's actually not my preferred route. So we're going to show another team I use here. By the way, the link for this team is down below. Also, if you find these videos helpful, the link down below has my content creator link. Click on that. I appreciate it. That's the best way to support me as a content creator. Say you like this. I mean, of course, give the thumbs up. All of that, the normal, all the normal content creator stuff. But click on that link as well. That does help me as a content creator. But let's show a different team here with a different a different setup. So instead, I'm going to go with 4 Colossus, 4 tanks, and only 5 Scion, and I'm going to spread them out. And we're going to show kind of a mirror match here, where my opponent's going to run basically the same thing I do. So instead of grouping everything together like I did last time, I'm actually going to spread them all out. And this time I'm spreading them all out because I'm anticipating some area attack damages that I don't think I can necessarily hold off. So I want to minimize the number of units that are getting hit. There are various teams that this will happen with, but one of them is in this mirror match because look at these push right here. Right off the bat, you can see the opponents group them together, and look at the difference. I'm going to be able to hit both of them with a single attack. They can only hit one of mine. That is a huge difference in the start, and that is why I'm going to end up taking not only the first round, but really the first 3 rounds, as we kind of do the exact same thing. We've got a mirror match here. Both my opponent and myself are going to run the same thing, so we're going to speed these up double time. We've got the Titan Ore back out there. I put the Titan Ore in the corner. A lot of times you'll see it put in the middle because you want to draw. You've got these Scions, you'll kind of want to draw all the units toward the middle of the battlefield, so you can get these lasers going across the battlefield as far as possible and hitting as many targets in the middle as you can. But I put the Titan Ore out to the side so its stun can hit as many units as possible, because I'm going to get some more tanks out there, so I can afford to throw one off to the very side, because we're going to have 4 Colossus to work with instead of just the normal 2. I'm going to have 3 Illuvials plus my Ranger. I set my Ranger in the back here because my opponent actually had some rogues on his team, and I thought he might stick some rogues in there to try and throw things off. But we're gonna win this 3rd round for the same reason. We could take out 2 of their flesh where they were only able to take out 1. Once we get to round 4, things are going to change up a little bit, and we're going to see 2 big things. I'm going to, as we'll see right here, okay, I didn't show it, but I got the shock. I was able to get the shock augment once again. Again, that doesn't always happen, but I think it's cool to show it because I like using my shock units here. And then I'm going to throw out tanks instead. And this guy over here is the Gnarl, is one that I really like. Both the Gnarl and the Titan Ore are actually going to damage the furthest units away, so they can do some sneaky damage. The Titan Ore getting that stun, and Titan Ore is it's one of the best units in the game. It is so good. But I went with instead of going with the fire. So you see, I mentioned earlier that a lot of times you'll go with fire instead. So they have the fire synergy out there. They have 7 Scions instead of 5, so they just have a lot more damage than I do right now, and that's going to turn the tide a little bit. I wasn't too concerned at this point because I know I didn't have. They've got They've got 9 units on the board. I've only got 8. They've got an extra unit. I hadn't gotten my shock. They had their fire synergy. I didn't have my shock synergy yet, so it was a little imbalanced. But it's still, I mean, if it wasn't for that stun at the end, I may have still had it. But I really like the what these extra tanks bring. So this time I decided to put the shock. Now I moved these. Did move these guys around, trying to keep my shock unit alive. I don't know why I did that. The moving around was completely pointless and a waste of mastery points. But I like putting the shock affinity on my Titan because it a lot of times it's such a massive tank, such a good tank that it's a lot of times the last unit left alive. So it can be doing shock damage this entire time. It doesn't have to be on an attacking unit necessarily. That shock synergy will work over there on the Titanor. So I used a lot of the same augments here. Again, I wasted some mastery points using it around. I really like to keep my shock unit alive so we can keep it has to be on the board in order to be shocking enemies on the other side. So I should have done a better job of protecting the shock unit. That's actually what I was doing here, because I was trying to stay away from those Flish, and I forgot they had their Alfie on the other side that was still gonna take out my shock unit. So a little bit, not the best thing to show, and that I wasted some points. But you'll see. I also normally would go ahead and get my next tank out there, and I kind of forgot about doing that, but it's going to work out anyways. You'll see the shock damage going off every few seconds. You see that lightning strike come down, and getting that the shock bonus out there was certainly helpful. Also added some of my augments, got some healing over there. Ends up being fairly close, but even though they've got the extra Scion bonus, the fire bonus, I think having those tanks in there, just giving that extra durability, is very, very big. Look at this shock though. Look at this shock unit take out their top Illuvio out there. I think that shock is pretty powerful. I'm not 100% convinced that shock is better than the fire bonus. That extra damage from the fire bonus is still pretty solid, but I really like that shock. Then I get the extra Illuvio on the board. We were able to get a win when it was 8 versus 9. I think another tank out there. Again, where I really failed here was protecting my shock unit. If I'm gonna get that shock synergy out there, I need to keep my shock unit alive so it can continue to shock, continue to reduce that energy resist. Try to give a little bit of extra protection there. That gives some protection in a medium area. You're gonna see that's not necessarily enough, but overall, again, what I really wanted to show here was the positioning, because there's two different ways you can really position these Scion teams. You can spread them out, and again, we're spreading them out if we're trying to handle AoE damage or these straight line attacks, and we want to prevent them from just hitting our entire clone. If they're all clumped up in the corner, you get the big AoE attack, or those energy beams that can just hit everything, that can really be deadly. So spreading them out to try and kind of reduce that a little bit. Or if we think the opponent doesn't have that type of damage, like to just group them all of them in a corner in a nice little area to provide some protection, make it hard to get through. So there's kind of a couple different ways to run it. And then you can run 7 Scions, run it with 5. I like the 5 one better, but let me know, what do you guys think? What teams do you like? What teams have you been using against this? I've been putting some, as I get some of these teams out, I want to get some counter videos to come out as well. But what I'm really focusing on right now is some teams that you can go put together in Arena and run that are as new player friendly as possible. So hopefully everybody can get some teams out, kind of learn to play the game. I've been climbing up to around 1300 rating with this team. So I'm not necessarily climbing up top 100, top 500, anything like that. I'm definitely not saying this is the best team to run in the game, but I feel like this is one of the most new player friendly teams to run in the game. So again, if you like the video, click the link down below. That supports the channel. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. Again, I'm still, I've kind of graduated from new player, but I'm still fairly new to the game, still learning these things. But I feel like that I'm finally getting into a spot where I can really start to put out some team guides, some video guides on what I've learned kind of the first month or so, really diving into Illuvium and really share what I've learned and what's helped me kind of progress the best. So having a team like this, I think, can be very helpful. That I don't want to say it's simple to run, because I'm not sure any team in Illuvium Arena, when in this kind of beta test that we have, it's kind of like a demo where they throw everything at you and you have every augment available, every Illuvium available, and you just kind of get overwhelmed. So it can definitely be an overwhelming game. I can't wait until the overworld is here and we start capturing our own Illuvials, and I think it'll be much easier for people to learn and come into the game then, when you're starting with, okay, you just got a handful of Illuvials that you've caught that are yours, and you get to kind of use those and grow with those, and then find out, okay, this is what I want to go add. Now I'm going to go out and catch it, and that'll bring a whole new aspect to the game. So I think it'll be easy to learn when that's here. But right now, the game can certainly be overwhelming. So I'm trying to provide some themes that are hopefully as simple as possible and can help you guys have some early success in Arena. If you are here, you are early as you're wanting to play the game. Once that overworld comes out, once all these people come flooding in, you're going to be ahead of the game if you know how to play, know some of these teams. So congrats, you guys are getting in early, and we're going to have some fun, right? Come by my streams, catch me live. I'll see you guys there.